All right. Well, here with us is Yssah. And she's here to, well, she's a UFO enthusiast and researcher. And she's here to tell us about the connections between the ancient ones and the stars. And yeah, we're just very interested to find out who you are and what you're doing. So I'm going to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, thank you, Dustin, and thank you, Daniel, for having me here. Well, when I started this path to remember, I am started translating what I call source codes. It's your own sacred geometry. It's the expression of each one's hologram, what it's our characteristic as unicity within the unity, that
Hmm.
uniqueness within each one of us as part of a oneness. And it's a key, you know. Well, how I refer to all these codes, these ancient codes, these geometry codes, the simulation reality is the code itself, you know. And when we tune into those codes from a different scales of consciousness, then we are capable to manage and handle that that reality, that level of reality, if we might refer or address in that word, because it's more than a reality, it's the truth, connecting with the truth, how the reality as we look at it today at this moment is a hologram, and we're connected through a quantum field in a connected universe. So, and the ancient ones knew that. And who are the ancient ones? Where, well, from a non-linear time perspective, ancient is a very relative word, as time is not linear. It's circular, it's cyclic, moves in a spiral in a continuum of space-time. However, for our cognitive mind or cognitive thinking, we refer to past, present, and future. So the ancient ones, we are referring to the ones that existed before us, as we all know that. So when we connect with those ancient ones, there are many theories about who were these guys. Were they humans? Were they part of the galactic community? Were they both? And this is where I went even deeper in my path of remembering from the genetics, and as how I call it, the ontogenisis. Because for what I am doing here is bringing in the primordial codes of the human from its galactic constitution, from its galactic DNA, related precisely to the Gen Isis, because this is a very important code as well. That is in all ancient texts, and like all the cultures relate to the beginning of humanity as the Genesis. However, if you go deep within this word, it's the Gen Isis. And who was Isis? Well, it's an ether, which is a so-called Egyptian goddess, which is more than that, because then when we refer to all these beings as gods or goddesses, then we automatically are separating ourselves from that nature, from that divine nature. And what's that divine nature? Precisely the galactic DNA within. And it's very interesting. I'm very passionate about this topic because the more that we connect with this, we get to see the precision and the beauty of how human was created, how human was designed, the perfection of how the chromosomes were fusioned, and the the gamma rays that were used. And I could go deep within, with all this scientific part. However, well, maybe it gets too complex to be the first time we meet. So, so maybe we can talk it about in another time. But this is something that has been more and more like publicly spoken out about the relation of the mitochondria as being that part where the different DNA code related to the galactic information within the human resides. In other words, the mitochondria is that alien organelle within the cell, because it even has a different encoding. And it's independent from the cell's nucleus, and they are also working together. So what I'm doing with some techniques that I have developed is precisely to ignite through, we must say, ancient methods. Also, I rather call them the advanced technology methods, which is like a kind of nanotechnology, just holographically speaking, in order to connect with pulsars and the stellar codes, as how I call them, which are the constellations, the specific constellations embedded in the human hologram. And the specific techniques, codes, frequencies, in order to ignite that part of the mitochondria, as well as another part in the DNA and parts in the body, because the ancient ones is the knowledge that they tried to portray to the others, or to the others, us, if you may say, in order to keep on remembering and go beyond that amnesia, or it is amnesia that has been so present in humans for until now.
Wow.
Sounds very interesting. Everything sounds very interesting. But how did you find out about all of these things? Where did you start your research? And how did you start going deep into this kind of stuff? I mean, it sounds very complicated. And how did all this start?
Well, this is the best thing. Most of the knowledge that I share is what I remember. I initiated with some Incas knowledge. What the Queros, the descendants of the Incas, what they are, the message, the knowledge that they are carrying until now. And this is very related to using and manifesting your universe through the connection of every form of nature, and rituals and ceremonies. People would call it shamanism, which it kind of is. However, shamanism started and initiated in another continent. However, it has been delivered and called to Mesoamerican ways and forms of connecting to the spirit of the earth. However, it's more than a ritualist and ceremonial form of expressing. However, well, and then I got into Melchizedek, which is a method that was created in the beginning by Drúmbalo Melchizedek. And then an apprentice of him modified that information. And bottom line, it's the sum of Mayan, Vedic, Chinese, Hebrew, and Egyptian knowledge. And as soon as I connected with that information, I started remembering. And what do I call or how do I remember, or what is remembering for me? Is connecting to the lattice, connecting to the space memory, connecting to my mission, and remembering fast why I'm here for, what am I doing here, what I am expected to be performing within this human body, and get it done. So, for instance, when I talk about genetics, well, the way I started remembering about genetism, I recall talking to a very close friend, a very remarkable scientist, which is doing amazing things in the quantum physics, unifying them. And we were talking about some genetic aspects, and then he looks at me and he asks me, how do you know that? And then I told him, because I remember. And for instance, every time, we can all remember, we can all know this because it's within, regardless of what your mission, your specific mission or purpose in this body is. We are all in the same right to remember and connect with this information, because we are an extension of the universe. The thing is the compromise with our own body, because throughout this body, we are capable to ignite everything and remember everything. Of course, it's a different scale and a different moment based, as how I see it, on each one's purpose, and what each one is meant to be doing in this life. However, we are all getting there, or we could already get there. It's a matter of a choice in the end, you know?
Just for a better understanding, and maybe I missed that part, what activated your memory so you can remember all these things?
Well, how I do it is by connecting with information. As soon as I connect with a specific field, I start to tune. For instance, this is how I also scan the source codes of the people, because I just connect and I tune into, for instance, your electromagnetic field. I start to scan it, of course, with your approval. You know, however, when it comes to information, when it comes to structures, ancient structures, I am just scanning the place and then starting to remember. I start to remember, you know, and then yes, it just happens naturally. So what activated? Connecting with one of my deepest memories, which is an Atlantean one. So, and even before, I can even go to Hyperborea. actually. However, the most present one is an Atlantean one.
When you say connecting, we're not talking about meditation or telepathy or stuff like that, right?
Yes, no, I'm not a very, like, not the formal or the most common manner to meditate. You know, how I meditate, if we can call it that way, I just touch or do some frequencies, and I start activating the place and therefore activating the information within me. So telepathy, yes, but I'm not much of a meditating being
I understand.
somehow.
Okay,
Yes.
I understand. So this whole thing feels like a natural process for you. So
yes,
it's within you, and it was there all the time, but you had to find.
yes. Since I was a very little girl, you know, I could even interact like physically with beings, you know. It was in the beginning, it was kind of a shock. Then it started to being more normal and normal and normal. And then in order to translate all these codes, because when we talk about codes, they look beautiful. However, they are a lot of information, and what is information is density. So unless you can handle a lot of density, then you know, you go crazy.
So when you talk about these codes, is it like numbers? Is it like numbers like especially with the ancient ones? I know like numbers are important, like 3s, 12, 10. I heard are very important in some ancient cultures. Does that is that important? Do you seek those out?
Yes, definitely. Look, this is a very interesting one because codes, we can refer to codes from binary codes to other kind of codes that involve from what people can call sometimes symbols or symbols, you know.
Right.
But there is a very big difference. For instance, when we talk about a symbol, it's just one, even though you can refer to symbols when there is a group of symbol, just of many symbols, you know. However, when we talk about codes, is the pattern that they are generating. You know, the intermittence that they are generating, and that translates into a higher or more evolved message. Because when we see a code, a steady code, imagine a code.
If you have a picture, we can pull up if you want.
Yes, let me do that.
Daniel, let her share her photographs if you can. So I think it might be easier for our audience to kind of get a visual on stuff you're talking about.
Exactly. Okay. Well, yes, because when we see, for instance, a code, okay, I could even do it in my, let's do it faster. Okay. Thank you. Well, I will share the one that I share the most.
Sure, please. Whatever you feel comfortable with, or whatever you feel like.
I call it the Omnivision Key.
Oh, it's behind you. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes. Now, I will share it in another way, so then it can be, you know.
Yeah, share the screen. Share the screen.
Yes. Yes, I hadn't yet prepared. This is why I'm just, because I have many codes. So,
That's all right. There's no rush. It's all pre-recorded.
okay. Hmm. Well, I will share the one that I shared the other time
Sure.
with.
And do you have a website too? We're trying to find one if you had one.
I know. Look, I am working on that. There
Okay.
is so much information that I'm putting together a lot, so it's taking me
Sure.
some time because I'm not only with that, I'm
Sure.
with preparing the trips and books coming up,
Oh, cool. Yeah, if you want
and
to talk about your books, so we can talk about that too. You can plug in your books
sure,
for our future
sure,
for our audience
yeah,
here.
thank you. Okay, here it is. Here we have,
Perfect.
I know that I showed to you first this one.
Yep.
This one behind is this one, which I call it the Omnivision Key. And the Omnivision Key, you can see that it has a very resonant form to the chacana, which is the Atlantean cross, and it is a symbol or a code that the Incas would use, and also in whole Mesoamerica. And what does this, or how does this relate, for instance, to UFOs or to another, or to members of the galactic community?
Sure.
Well, when we go to higher levels of consciousness or a more evolved levels of consciousness, we know that reality is simpler. The more simple or the simpler, the more evolved it is. So there are ways to handle reality and not from this matter. If you're dealing with something, what most people will do is just, go to the effect, not to the origin or to the cause of that effect. When we go to the origin, that reality unfolds like these codes, So they can just look like nice figures or nice forms or nice geometries. However, we get to configure our reality like this. How? And this is where Hermetic knowledge comes. This is where Kabbalah and all these sacred ancient texts are embedding. And where does this information comes from? Well, from the members of the galactic community when they were here in the earth, and they were communing with the human beings as brother to sister, or sister to brother, or as mother to a son. Because this can also, we can look at it embedded, in how they picture or how they have sculpted. And Isis, the most famous goddess in Egyptology, nourishing Horus, like breastfeeding Horus. And you say, oh, right, they believed that they were gods. No. Okay, maybe yes, after, when there was a little bit of misinterpretation with priesthoods and all this, but before, it was just a matter of look at your origin, look who you are. And Horus is a code embedded in a form like this, like the Eye of Horus.
Oh, okay.
However, what is the Eye of Horus? The Eye of Horus is the thalamic body, not just the pineal gland, the thalamic body, the full center structure in the brain. And that's a code. Another code, for instance, is here. We have the tree of life, And when we multiply it, we get the particle of light and the Templar cross. That's another code.
Wow.
It's numerical. Yes, it's numerical because each circle has a specific frequency, has a specific value, and this is called gematria or gematria. And this specific value leads to other algorithms that, if we want to make it simpler, it translates to music. We can relate it to music. How?
Wow.
Different rhythms, intermittence in the pulse, different levels or waves of frequency. And that goes directly into our brain. So everything is vibrating. Everything is in a specific frequency. Everything is energy. And for instance, going back to the Omnivision Key, for instance, this is, you can see it, how it's going in.
Yeah.
Well, this is related to the hypercube. So if you know how to use this properly, you can configure this in your brain, ignite it within your brain, and then connect with more evolved realms from where you can design not only your reality, yet your body, your DNA. And yes, this is related also to epigenetics, however, from a holographic field.
Wow. Is there any connection with crop circles with some of these? Because
Yes, definitely.
it kind of reminds me of some of the crop circles too. They're so complex. If you want to share that connection too, or
Sure. Look, for instance, if we let me
wow.
see. For instance, we can see this Vesica Pisces in a lot of crop cycles, you know?
Yeah.
And this is embedded in every form of geometry. It's a blueprint. And it's very simple because then we have two circles coming together, and in the center, they create an eye. And that eye is also related to the black hole, because the all-seeing eye that we see everywhere in ancient cultures, you know, like the eye staring, and that nowadays people use it for protection. Well, it's also a code that goes deeper, and it's the reflection, like you can see yourself reflected in my eye. If you come close to me and then you look at my eyes, who you see is yourself.
Right.
So this is why it's used like protection, because you're reflecting yourself. Whatever you are emitting to the other, it's coming back to you. So, and the other one, which is like more complex somehow, it's related to Pisces, to the Vesica Pisces. As for Pisces, this is a code, a stellar code, like when the human was created, when the human was designed, there were used different algorithms in each part of the hologram. And they were anchored through specific patterns that nowadays we call them constellations. However, when the order is not an accurate one, what happens to the hologram? In this case, the human hologram. It's going through a distortion process. It's arithmetical. It's not synced in. So that's what has happened to the human. And we are capable to reorder that with the right codes from the holographic field, and then it will translate to this reality, because when it starts, or where it starts, is there in the holographic field, and then it materializes. So
That's very interesting.
this is why I believe that codes are so important.
Right.
When I started like tattooing not myself, I went with someone and I had my first tattoo, and so I did my own source code and all geometries, and printing that in my physical body, you know, like unfolded so many things within me. That's also a catalyzer for what Daniel was asking. You know, that's also that quickly allowed me to remember. Yes. Yes.
It's very interesting.
What is the tattoo of? Is it the symbol?
Yeah, this one or the other one?
Cool. Yeah, that's cool.
Yes, well, this is thank you. This is normal 8 I will try to put it closer. Well, this is a normal pattern in a star. And here we can see like a wheel, and here there are some codes. So each point of the star is in a specific, let's say, has a specific intention, and therefore a specific purpose. So we do this a lot, you know, and now it has been translated to magic. However, it's science. The thing is that when the separation in between hemispheres went deeper, then we started to conceive them as two universes apart, science and spirituality or mysticism. You know, however, they are the same. For instance, how do you get to an arc? Because this is something very, very important, but I am bringing as what I remember, information that I am bringing, and like the arcs and the cubes, you know, like in Egypt, and before known as Kemet, one of the most important figures, Akhenaten, he, like, some people call him the heretic, because he said, like, come on, guys, stop addressing to us or to them as gods and goddesses. We are one. So that kind of way of thinking, some priests didn't like. So, and also it involves a lot of, this is pretty related to the arc of the covenant, because the timelines are very manipulated, you know. So in the end, they were using, it's like, I ask myself, like, they see his depiction with the Aten, which is a sphere of energy. And then they look at it and they say, oh, he used to adore the solar disk. And you say, well, indeed, it's a process of evolution, you know, to perceive it that way. Indeed, you know, indeed, it's a part of the evolution to believe that beings so evolved would consider or would adore the sun or a disk. It's part of the process of evolution, and we are all remembering here, so okay. And for instance, now relating it to Pakal was a Mayan that he was found in his capsule holding a cube and a sphere. there are many ways to translate it, you know, like, okay, um, well, actually, they until this moment, they don't know why he was holding, like, you know, like most of the researchers in the area, they don't know how to relate or why he was holding a cube and a sphere. And what I remember is that, of course, those are artifacts. Know that cube and that sphere themselves, what they are representing. And those artifacts are underground, and we are to ignite them. It's our compromise to ignite them. They are igniting anyway. You know, actually, the last eclipses, and especially the last hybrid eclipse, ignited a lot, like a time clock, as it was accorded and as it was agreed. And a lot of cubes ignited. And what are these cubes? Well, these cubes are related to the arcs. And so the spheres. You know, so in ancient Egypt, they would put more energy and focus on the sphere, the atom, also related to the solar disk. However, these are two different things. When we relate to the solar disks, these are disks, you know, like plain disks. Right. And for instance, like the Aztec calendar, or the ones related into Peru, you know, these are disks, and these disks are pulsing codes that are igniting like clocks, specific things.
Right.
Yes.
I was going to say, what is your opinions on the pyramids in Egypt? Do you think they're power plants, or they have some kind of connection to the earth, or what's your opinion?
Well, I love this topic as well. Every time I go to the pyramids, there is the guardian that works there, and you can listen to this. It's like a recording, you know. It's like, and here is the sarcophag where the mummy was found, and now it's in the Egyptian museum. And then I wonder, well, more than wondering is how how all the information started at some point. Any kind of information, it starts at some point, and whoever that doesn't asks, where did this came from? Is it real? Is it not real? Why do they say that? I want to see it. Whoever doesn't has this kind of necessity to go further will just repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, because there was no mummy found in any of these pyramids in comparison to the Mexican ones, because here there were 5 bodies. But in the Egyptian ones, no. And these sarcophags, as how they call them, they're boxes, devices, the same as the ones in the Serapeum. And then we could go decoding the name of Serapeum and how it's related to the constellations and the codes of the first entrance in the pyramid, and the true name of the Giza Plateau, the Rostau, and you know, like we can go on and on. However, 2 things about in relation to your question. Every time I used to go in, or when I go to the pyramids, each one has a different frequency. You know, for instance, if you go to the middle pyramid, known as Hafara, you will connect more with the heart. If you go to the grand pyramid known as Hofu or Hofo, then you will connect more with the with the mind, but then it wouldn't be precise. You would connect more, like with the strength and the focus, and like alignments to a state of clarity within, and so on. Each pyramid ignites in a specific part in you. And also, however, for me, going into that big chamber, the king's chamber, is always going inside my head, literally. So every time I go there, it's like, okay, let's see what I'm going to create now or today. And the most amazing scenarios come in. I start chanting, and the resonance with all the walls, the precision of each block, and where it's located, tunes in and harmonizes everything. Everything. It's impressive. It's remarkable.
Yeah.
And well, now we use it this way. Before, for me, it's pretty simple. That's the second one. They're oscillators. And before, everything was connected through water as an interface, or as the interface. So we know that water is a conductor that emulates to the plasma. So when this is amplified with a specific material, such as the ones that the pyramids were made with, then it is connecting a whole grid of pyramids, a pyramidal grid, that they are oscillating, they're bumping, generating free energy. And that's on one side. If we reflect this to our body, we have also pyramidal neurons that are communing with the spinal fluid, that is connecting the full brain, and that being us capable to generate as well through the mitochondria free energy. So yes, this is what for me the pyramids are. They are oscillators generating through the water free energy and connecting a big grid that connects to Orion.
Yeah. No, I just find it amazing how they were built in general. like what healthy slave are you whipping on the back to move 25-ton blocks that are 100 miles away, and then have to be perfectly, aligned? Because if you mess up on the bottom just by a few centimeters, like once you reach the top, the whole pyramid be messed up. So I mean, like the mathematics that go into the pyramids are just mind blowing, and the fact that it used to be like totally smooth on the outside and had that, I think was it a gold tip on the top there? Yeah, very awesome. I can only imagine like the ancient people who stumble upon Egypt at the time when it was full blown going powerful, like how mind blowing that, like what? Especially when you look in the tool, once you look in the ancient toolbox of the Egyptians, it's like chicken bone and dental floss, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? I don't know. It's just it's absolutely amazing, especially even in South America. I find that absolutely amazing that out of the jungle where it's like not really stable to build a city, they do it anyways, right? And they have some of those pyramids have liquid mercury flowing underneath them with to capture the energy and use it as energy. And then even some of those pyramids have mica built inside of the pyramids too. Like mica was mined far away, even I think north of Mexico.
Yes, exactly.
But the fact that they know they knew the properties of mica with the heat and stuff, so it's gonna make some of these pyramids and cities kind of like landing ports for spacecraft. And no, I love South America so much. It's just so rich with ancient astronaut cultures and cargo cults, I'd like to say. Like that one this one tribe in Brazil that I really like, the Kayapo Indians. I don't know if you heard about them, but they have an ancient cargo cult where they have a yearly celebration of telling the story of this astronaut-like creature coming into their village, and they were scared at first, and even the brave men went there to fight it, threw spears at it, and it like turned into dust. But yeah, apparently this creature stayed in their town for overnight and learned their language and taught them mathematics, agriculture, and then they built a school after this guy, this astronaut that came and taught them. And then they have yearly celebrations of dressing up like this astronaut, and they would do his dance and then tell the story about it came down with fire and smoke on top of this mountain, and then it came into their village and taught them agriculture and mathematics, and I think even married one of the women there. And they described him having white skin with a beard, but again having this glass helmet and inflated suit. But they would, replicate that with dressing up like in straw suit and whatever. But again, it still continues today, like the culture and the people telling the story of how they interacted with this creature. So again, South America is just a treasure trove for ancient astronauts, and I just absolutely love it. And the fact that you're there and you get to go to these pyramids like just down the road from you is awesome.
Yes, it is. It is. Like here, I'm very close. When I was in Egypt, I like living the last time. I my house was in front of the pyramids. Like literally, I would go and have my coffee and
my God,
the Grand Pyramid in front.
How
and
beautiful.
Yes, and this is I want to mention to you something about the precision of how they were made. I don't usually say this. However, I will today. And there are a lot of times, like several times, that a lot of people won't see the pyramids. Like you're walking and then you don't see anything, and then oh, wait a second, the pyramids were here, right? And then you move, oh, they there are. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Okay. It was like a light phenomenon, That's why I didn't
Yeah.
or taking a picture, like okay. Actually, I have a couple of videos where I'm joking, like you don't see the pyramid? Now you do. You don't see the pyramid? Now
weird.
you do. Because speaking about the hologram,
Sure.
these are advanced technology tools. When you create and generate from the holographic, you have the capability to translate it accurately. So one of the tools used is precisely through the holographic field, bring it and densify it. So, it's so subtle, it's so
Right.
subtle in between the simulation and the truth, it's just, this is why they call it like the Isis veil or the veil of Isis, because it's just very thin, very thin.
It is.
And talking about the Mercury, there is also the what they used to give a tincture, like to paint the pyramids and the inner the inner part of the sarcophags in red, is actually the Mercury in a solid form.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
And if you get to know more about the Mercury, it has very interesting properties regarding to the gravitational field and other things. So
Wow.
imagine the full pyramids were painted in red. The full
Wow.
pyramids were painted in red.
That's insane.
Awesome.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, awesome.
Well, on that note, when we do this another time, have you back, and we could have you, or maybe your friend too, join us to talk more about this. Yeah, because we have another guest coming on in 15 minutes. But is there anything else you would like to tell the audience, to how they can reach you and find you, and maybe find more information about this?
Sure. Yes. Thank you. Well, You can write me to my email. It's omnivision.hunuh at outlook.com. I can write it to you later, maybe.
Yeah, send it to me.
And also my Facebook page, my YouTube channel, and my Instagram, which is Yssah, the same as my name here, like YSSAH, ARZ space LIB, Ars Lib. And yes, because if anyone who is watching this transmission wants to know more, well, I am bringing in a lot of courses, workshops regarding to the source code, to the, how I call it, the quantum hologenesis, which is this method that I designed in order to, I'm here?
Yeah, you're here.
You're still here, yeah.
Yeah.
I I pressed something and
The screen's
okay,
black.
there you are. Okay, there you are. The quantum hologenesis or hologenisis, which is a series of practices with quantum physics, with frequency, with geometry, astrology, astronomy, and biology, of course, in order to ignite the full potential within your body, within your brain, of course, within your DNA, in a very approachable form. Even though it sounds kind of complex, I've delivered it in a simple way. I mean, some people is related to it, some people is not, so it's for both.
Sure.
Yes.
It sure sounds a little bit complicated, but thank you though for giving us a little insight.
Yes.
What you do and what you're dealing with. It was very, very interesting. Thank you for that.
It was.
Thank you. Thank you. And well, just one last thing. We are organizing a trip to Mexico in English. It will be delivered in English, and it's to connect with all the Mayan codes and connect them with the Egyptian codes. So, and precisely from a point of view where there is much more to know and pretty related to the cube and to the spheres and to the Athens. So yes,
that's awesome.
Yes, it's going to be amazing. So if you're also interested in joining us, we will be going to places that not everybody can go in. It's just it's a possible to gather with very specific permission, and that's not given to tourists. And there are virgin places, and also we will be going to ancient sites. Well, these are also ancient sites, but archaeological sites. And yes, we will finish the tour in the Ankh, the only Mesoamerican Ankh known so far, which is located in Calixtlahuaca, a place nearby Mexico City, and it's an Ankh, literally an Ankh, key of life. Yes, an Egyptian key, so known as an Egyptian key of life in Mexico.
Yes, cool. Very interesting topic. Very interesting. Everything is very interesting.
It is. Yeah.
It's very interesting. Maybe when we meet the next time, we have to go a little bit more in depth.
Sure.
All this stuff. It's so interesting. But for today, like I said, thank you for being our guest. And thanks to everybody who was listening and watching today. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and leave a nice comment. And Yssah, stay with us for 2 more minutes, okay?
Okay.